Very unexpected news. Loudly crying faced the painful secret of BTS Jin. Loudly crying faced the heartbreaking truth behind his smile. In the blinding lights of the global stage, where millions of voices scream his name, there stands a man known to the world for his radiant smile and effortless humor. To the casual observer, Jin is the embodiment of confidence, the self-proclaimed worldwide handsome who blows kisses to cameras and cracks jokes to lighten the heaviest atmospheres. But if you look past the dazzling visuals and the chaotic laughter, you will find a story that is far quieter, far more human, and deeply aching. It is a story not of instant greatness, but of a slow, agonizing climb against the gravity of self-doubt. It is the narrative of Kim Seok-jin, a man who had to break himself 1,000 times to become the idol the world needed him to be. To understand the weight Jin carries, one must look back to the beginning, before the fame, before the records, and before the adoration. Unlike many of his peers who were born with rhythm in their veins or voices that could shatter glass, Jin walked a different path. He was an acting student, a young man who dreamed of telling stories through characters, not through dance or song. When destiny intervened and he was scouted by Big Hit Entertainment, he was thrown into a world he was fundamentally unprepared for. While the other members of what would become BTS were prodigies in rapping or dancing, having spent years underground or in academies, Jin was starting from zero. It is widely documented in various media sources and fan archives that the early days were not just difficult for Jin, they were a battle for survival. Imagine the psychological toll of standing in a practice room, surrounded by teenagers who moved with a natural fluidity you did not possess. While others perfected complex choreography in hours, Jin had to practice for days. There is a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being the oldest, yet feeling like the one who is lagging behind. He carried the burden of age, the expectation that he should lead, while simultaneously fighting the terrifying thought that he might be the weak link holding everyone else back. During the trainee years and the debut era, the criticism was often harsh. In the cutthroat world of K-pop, visuals are often dismissed as lacking substance. Jin faced the silent, stinging stigma of being just a pretty face. Critics and even early audiences sometimes overlooked his efforts, focusing only on his appearance. The pain of this era was not loud. It was the quiet, suffocating fear of inadequacy. He had to learn to sing while dancing, to control his breath while his body screamed in exhaustion. The physical toll was immense, but the mental toll was heavier. He watched his younger brothers excel and wondered if he would ever truly belong on that stage alongside them. As BTS began their meteoric rise, the pressure did not vanish, it evolved. The more famous they became, the higher the pedestal grew, and the farther the fall would be. Jin became a master of masking his struggles. He adopted a persona of unshakable confidence, using humor as a shield. He laughed loudly so that others would not have to worry. He praised his own face so that no one would see the insecurity in his eyes. But there were cracks in the armor. In his solo track Awake, released in 2016, Jin finally gave the world a glimpse into his bleeding heart. He sang about how he might not be able to fly like the other flower petals, how he might not be able to touch the sky, but he would still run, struggling through the pain. These were not just lyrics. They were a confession. He was admitting to the world, and to himself, that he felt ordinary in a group of extraordinary talents. The year 2018 stands as a pivotal, haunting chapter in this narrative. BTS had reached heights that no Korean act had ever touched, yet behind the scenes, the shadows were lengthening. During the 2018 MoMA Awards, in a moment that shocked the world, Jin stood before the microphone, tears streaming down his face, and revealed that the group had considered disbanding. It was a confession that shattered the illusion of perfection. It showed that the weight of the crown was crushing them. For Jin, the oldest member who often bore the responsibility of emotional stability for the group, Admitting this fragility was an act of immense bravery. It was a signal that the success was terrifying, that the burnout was real, and that the smiles they wore were often heavy with exhaustion. But the darkness did not consume him. Instead, it forged him. The beauty of Jin's story lies in his resilience. He did not possess the natural talent of a prodigy, so he replaced it with the relentless grit of a worker. He practiced singing until his vocal cords were raw. He practiced dancing until his muscles failed. He transformed himself from an aspiring actor into a silver-voiced vocalist whose stability became the backbone of BTS's live performances. He proved that hard work is not just a cliché, it is a weapon. He showed that you do not have to be born a star to become one. You can build yourself into a star, brick by painful brick. Yet, even at the peak of global dominance, the demons of self-doubt returned. In 2020, when BTS reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Dynamite, Jin confessed to feeling a profound sense of imposter syndrome. In a letter to fans and through his song Abyss, he revealed that he questioned whether he deserved such massive accolades. He received congratulations from all over the world, but in the quiet of his room, he felt empty. He felt he wasn't good enough, that he was receiving love that should belong to someone more talented. This admission was heartbreakingly human. Here was a man who had the world at his feet, yet he felt he was standing on hollow ground. It was a moment of vulnerability that connected him deeply to millions of people who also struggle with feeling unworthy of their own achievements. Why do people love Jin? It is not just because of the charts or the awards. It is because of this humanity. It is because he is the older brother who wakes up early to cook meals for the younger members, ensuring they are fed before he is. It is because, according to various fan accounts and behind-the-scenes content, he used his own allowance in the early days to buy food for the group when money was tight. It is because he drives the younger members to school and attends their graduations, standing in as a guardian when their parents cannot be there. His love is practical, quiet, and constant. He is the emotional anchor. When the atmosphere becomes too tense, Jin cracks a joke, sacrificing his own image to make the others laugh. He absorbs the awkwardness so that his brothers can be comfortable. This is a form of leadership that does not demand authority but offers service. As the years passed, Jin began to find a new kind of peace. The concept of Epiphany, his solo anthem, became his reality. He realized that the one he should love in this world is himself. The shining me, the precious soul of mine. It was no longer about catching up to the others or seeking validation from critics. It was about accepting his own pace. He accepted that he is Jin, and that is enough. This shift from self-doubt to self-acceptance is perhaps his greatest achievement, far surpassing any trophy or record. Then came the inevitable duty, the military enlistment. In December 2022, Jin became the first member of BTS to enter the military boot camp, stepping away from the glamour of the global stage into the harsh reality of winter training. For 18 months, the world waited. There was a fear, silent but present, that things would change, that the magic might fade. But Jin served with the same quiet dignity he applied to his career. He became an assistant drill instructor, earning the respect of his peers and superiors, proving once again that he blooms wherever he is planted. When he returned in June 2024, the reception was not just loud, it was emotional. He didn't return as just an idol. He returned as a man who had fulfilled his duty and kept his promise. His participation as a torchbearer for the 2024 Paris Olympics was a symbolic moment. It represented a new chapter. He was standing alone, representing his country and his group, looking calm, regal, and assured. The nervous boy who once worried about ruining the choreography was gone. In his place stood a man who knows his worth. Looking toward the future, Jin has expressed a desire to live happily and to continue bringing joy to those who support him. Whether it is through variety shows, solo music, or acting, his goal remains rooted in connection. He wants to be a source of strength, just as his fans have been for him. He has learned that true strength is not about never being afraid. It is about trembling with fear and stepping onto the stage anyway. As we look at Kim Seok-jin today, we do not just see a superstar. We see a mirror of our own struggles. We see a person who felt small, who felt unworthy, who wanted to quit, but who chose to stay. We see someone who learned that it is okay to be the last petal to bloom, because when it finally does, it is the most beautiful of all. His journey reminds us that you do not need to be the fastest runner to finish the race. You do not need to be the most talented person in the room to be the most impactful. You simply need to endure. You need to be kind to yourself when the world is not. In the end, the applause will fade, and the lights will dim. But what remains is the character of the man who stood in the center of the storm and learned to smile, not because it was easy, but because he refused to let the darkness win. Jin's story is a quiet promise to every dreamer who feels they are not enough. You are valid, your pace is your own, and you are worth loving. And as the screen fades to black, we are left not with the sound of cheering crowds, but with a profound silence. A silence that is not empty, but full of respect. It is the silence of understanding the cost of his smile. It is the silence of gratitude for a man who showed us that the most beautiful moment in life is not when you are perfect, but when you finally accept that you are flawed, and you choose to love yourself anyway.